I wonder if people retain their personality. Like this is what with the whole thing, you know, everything. It just seems strange to me. Like you could be a total goofball here in the life. I mean, you could be like the type of guy that gets fired from an M&M factory for throwing away the W's, right? And suddenly you die and you're the Maharishi. I mean, how does that happen?
That's not how it is. Because that's never how I've picked anyone up. It's more that the person has learned something and they still retain their personality. Otherwise, I couldn't describe them to the person, right? How could I describe their personality if I can't pick it up, right? I get an image and a sense, and as if I'm watching and I've been there. So no, their personality transitions to a degree, but it's still, in order for me to identify it, otherwise everybody would be Maharishi. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, there's certainly... you know, I've not picked up someone whose personality was so vastly different that the person that I was reading for didn't recognize them. If anything, it was like, I sexually abused you when you were 8 years old, and I was a hateful person, and I recognize that this has been my pattern, and I want to make amends to you now because I recognize that what I've done is wrong. But it's never been like, and I am now God, you know, I am now sitting with God, playing the harp, and having a nice time with the angels. You know what I mean? And I think, and I think what's really interesting too about this conversation we're having is, you know, I've never studied with a traditional medium ever. I've been to the spiritualist church just for fun, and you know, so I am really more interested in the consciousness aspect of it and what happens to us, because I love the scientific piece of it where, you know, now, especially with Lynn McTaggart, Dr. Gary Schwartz, there's some really interesting scientists and Noetic Sciences, Institute of Noetic Sciences that are doing consciousness research that are like saying, okay, fine, we know that there is something that happens that our consciousness, you know, does exist after the body is left behind. So I usually say that someone's transitioned. But do we look like we're do we look like we're 30 and living in California? I don't buy that. You know, it's like I just don't buy it because but I don't think anybody really knows. I think we just theorize, you know, and you have all these books by these mediums, and I'm reading them and I'm going, well, you know, I've done the exact same thing as so and there's no way that's not what I pick up at all. I don't see these people like that. You know, is this just our way of trying to put a story around something that we don't understand, or isn't it better that we just say we don't know?
Well, that way we can learn.
That way we can still explore it. Because we don't know. Listen, I can do this stuff, and I don't know. I'm not afraid to say I don't know.
Right. Well,
Let's just say that.
That's why sometimes the illusion of knowledge is worse than ignorance, because it blocks us sometimes.
Well, or we sell people a bill of goods. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's true, and you know, I've seen some extraordinary mediums work. Gordon Smith and John Holland are both with Hay House, and they're spectacular. I mean, I never hope to be as detailed as them. It's an aptitude that they have, right? And like John and I were talking the other day, and it's like, you know, I'm, you know, really good at what I do, and he's amazing at what he does. And we were sharing stories about it. I'm saying, you know, I never studied this stuff, but how do you pick them up? And he picks them up almost the same as me. But say, for example, like Gordon can tell you street names and describe things that are just like insane. You know?
Incredible.
And yet, though, there's a tradition of mediumship where, oh, you know, this person is always behind you. Oh, yes, they're behind you. Well, I don't see anybody behind anybody. Okay, like I just pick it up and I just say, I don't know where it is. It better not be in my house. Okay, like I just like what? The dead person showed up in Sedona, and I'm talking to somebody in Manhattan. You know what I mean? Like I don't see anybody behind anybody. Like consciousness doesn't work that way. And then if we keep trying to define it in a way that, ooh, there's a ghost here, that's not real, you know. And I think, you know, with all the consciousness research now, there's a sense that we now, you know, where there's this whole subatomic particles and below that now, and you know, where is this consciousness? Well, we don't know, but we sure know we share it, and I can prove it.
We're gonna start. I gotta start taking feedback, or I'm gonna hate ones. Vanessa Guild,
you're gonna get hate
Alberta, Canada. Colette, do you ever meet people who you immediately get a bad vibe from or refuse to give readings to?
Absolutely. I can tell you a couple of, well, first of all, now not anymore in terms of that because the wait list is so long, and my assistant, who is so on target, you know, kind of filters through people. But because I'm a little pricey right now, and it's, you know, I don't attract, and I don't really attract people who like that particularly. But before, when I was starting out, there was somebody who I had a really bad feeling for, And as it turned out, he was in jail for murder. I found out after the fact, but it kept canceling. I kept canceling. I kept feeling like I should cancel. And then, sure, when I've seen people who I think are very black, and whether or not, and again, I believe that we can embody evil, but I don't believe in a Satan figure, right? So I think that our actions, our thoughts, our anger, our all that stuff, I will get a vibe on that. And I also will not read anybody if they've had too many readings. The obsessive compulsive, I have wrote about that in my book, Messages from Spirit. I talk about oracle abuse, where you've gone to so many psychics, and then you come to me, and I'm like, well, you just had 5 readings, and you're asking me the same question. Go see a shrink. Here's your money back. And that's what I do. I send them to the appropriate sources because it's our responsibility too. So yeah, and people can give me a bad vibe. And then there's other times, because I have my own stuff to work through, they'll trigger me. And it's not that they're bad. It's just that they might represent a lesson that, the dynamic between me and that kind of person, isn't necessary to go through again. So, but yeah, I think your question was that a long answer?
No, that was a good answer. Vanessa, thank you so much for listening from Canada.